This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now.
And indeed it does. Welcome to Open Line, everyone. Brian Callahan here this week with David Williams, flicking the switches behind the big pane of glass. It's actually much more technical than that, but thank you, Dave, for everything you do. The numbers to call locally, 709-273-5211. Long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, and that's AKA 8626, of course, or if you prefer. And we'll take your emails, of course. We prefer the callers, but Open Line at VOCM.com. Listen to Environment Canada's Justin Boudreau describing in plain and blunt terms today, describing today's weather as a dog's breakfast. You know, it's an old Commonwealth idiom. It suggests, basically a mixed bag of mess, a dog's breakfast, and it is out there today. I won't deny that. But I don't know, a dog's breakfast has come a long way by since I was growing up and feeding my dogs. With some of the marketing out there, some of the so-called gourmet offerings for dogs and cats these days, packaged like human food, storing it in the fridge instead of the cupboard or the back porch. Clever marketing, I should say. Some of those commercials where, a friend or a girlfriend gets disowned in favor of the dog when they scoff at it. It's such a thing. But it's definitely a thing. But I digress. It is a mess out there today from coast to coast, really. Delays, closures across the board, businesses, schools, mostly affecting areas beyond the Avalon, which, I will say we don't mind it. We'll take that brief break, I'm guessing it'll be, compared to, the last couple of weeks. So pretty much west of Avalon, thereof. And I know the city and province do their best to clear the roads, but I drove in around 7:30 or 8 this morning, trying to navigate the icy roads, especially the on and off ramps to and from the Gujju Highway. And they weren't touched at that point. And that's rush hour. I mean, they were still covered in that layer of ice. You could tell there's a few tracks, but not much else. Covered in that, thin layer of ice from the freezing drizzle and rain coming down. I don't often criticize, I call it what it is. I drove in it, and at that hour, when everybody's really getting going, the buses are on the road, but we knew this was coming as well, right down to the hour. If you just have a look at any weather sites or information that was out there, and it wasn't 4 or 5 or 6 a.m. before the heavier traffic get moving. It was rush hour. So just putting that out there. Maybe a little bit of a delay. I don't know. If there's an explanation for it or someone disagrees, I'd be all ears. But it was white knuckle there for a while coming in this morning, and I'm hoping that that's all it was for others. I think there were a couple of accidents that were mentioned, but hopefully nothing beyond, nothing too serious. I will say the weather was nothing like this 17 years ago today, on March 12th of 2009. That was a beautiful day. Until just after 9:30 in the morning when Cougar Flight 491 ran into trouble. And about 15 or 20 minutes later, and of course it was just had departed from St. John's for the offshore, and at 9:48 a.m. the Sikorsky helicopter ditched into the Atlantic Ocean. Only about 55 kilometers from St. John's. I'm sure they could see the shoreline. And we know now it was the result of losing all oil pressure in the main gearbox, which runs the engines and turns the blades. So the 18 on board were headed to the Sea Rose, the FPSO, in the White Rose Field and the Hibernia platform. But they were trying to make it back to land when all of this occurred, with the understanding that the engines could run for 30 minutes after losing said oil pressure. And I, like most of us, remember that morning all too well sometimes. I actually at the time was freelancing. I was working with a buddy of mine, Tristram Clark, who many people know around the city. Great guy. We were working for Global Television. I was freelancing, and I guess we were both freelancing for Global. We got the call to cover this. And I remember heading to the airport and, I'm not going to get into a whole lot because I know how hard this is for the families and the relatives, but I'll never forget that news conference with relatives there looking for answers, hoping for the best, but really fearing the worst, no question, and really it's like yesterday. So 18 on board, all lost except the one survivor, Robert Decker. And, I'm pretty much on the flight path. I live downtown, and these choppers take, to the same flight path that the choppers take to leave and return to the offshore every day, 3 or 4 times, 2 or 3 times, I guess, a day, or however many times it is. I'm not sure I even paid much attention to it before this tragedy. Maybe the occasional glance up, you hear the engines. But ever since, I hear that sound now, and I literally go out of my way to find it in the sky and watch it for a bit. I stop what I'm doing. I don't know why. I guess just to make sure it's okay, I guess. I don't know. But if that's my reaction to this day, then I can only imagine how the family, friends, coworkers, others who continue to fly out and back every day, how they dealt with this, and to this day, how they continue to deal with it. And if you'll indulge me for a moment, I'm not just going to leave it there. We should remember who these people were that we lost that day, these very important people to so many people. So, Thomas Anwell, 46, Langley, BC. Peter Breen, 55, St. John's. Gary Corbett, 46, Conception Bay South. Matthew Davis, the pilot, 34, Torbay. Wade Drake, 42, from Fortune. Wade Duggan, 32, of Witless Bay. Corey Eddy, 32, of Paradise. Keith Escott, 39, of St. John's. Colin Henley, 38, of St. John's. Tim Lanouette, 48, of Comox, BC, the first officer. Ken McRae, 47, from Greenwood, Nova Scotia. Alison Marr, just 26, from Equifort, upshore. Greg Morris, 40, from Outer Cove. Derek Maloney, 51, of Bay Bulls. Birch Nash, 44, another feller from Fortune. John Pelly, 41, from Deer Lake. And Paul Pike, 49, from Shearstown. Never to be forgotten. And will be remembered, of course, during the annual memorial service, which takes place tonight at 7 p.m. at the Elm Pentecostal Tabernacle here on Kenmount Road. Not sure how I got through that, Dave. And I did and still have thoughts and opinions, of course, in the aftermath of what happened, and why it happened, and how to prevent it from happening again. But that, I would suggest, is for another day, and we reserve this one for those souls I just read out, and of course, for the well-being of Robert Decker, because we can only imagine how difficult it must be to carry on and shoulder that experience forever. So I welcome any relatives or friends of those lost to share their memories of them, if that's something you'd like to do on this very, very heavy day for everyone involved. Okay, Dave, you know what? Rather than jump right into anything else, can we just take that early break there now, if that's okay? Take that first break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the program for this Thursday. Let's see. Normally I'll get in a bit of a sports, and I still got a list of things there I'd like to cover from yesterday, not the least of which is Canada going to the quarters against the U.S. on Friday in World Baseball Classic. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If I've got to call one on the line waiting, I'm not going to gab on. Let's go right to line number 1. And Darryl, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Brian. How are you today?
Okay, bittersweet. Well, no, it's more bitter. And sad day, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be on my mind all day. I'm not going to mention it every time, but when anybody asks me, it's not a great day, but we'll get through.
Yes, I know. It was a very, very sad day. What happened back in 2009 is very tragic, and we got to keep our prayers and thoughts in our minds for the family and relatives and sons and daughters, whoever got affected. Is always remember, and with the most deep respect for all.
Absolutely, Darryl. And it's not just, and of course, family and relatives first and foremost, but it's also to keep it on that front burner, never to let the safety issue here get away from us, because God knows. I mean, even since going back to the Ocean Ranger, how long have we had to kick and scream and pulling teeth trying to get some of these, whether it's, dedicated to SAR at the airport, whatever it's been over the years, it's always been a battle. Right. And we should always remember that these accidents happen. The safety should be the first and foremost. And that's for the companies out there, too. Yeah. They need to be reminded. Yeah. Everybody needs to be reminded.
Yes, everybody got to be vigilant when it comes to that stuff, and more or less the moral of the story, lest we forget. So we got to always remember and look forward. I guess that's the only way.
We forget at our peril. Absolutely, Darrell.
Yeah, exactly right. So Brian, what I want to talk about today is offshore oil and our resources. And I listened to a podcaster recently on Norway, and their oil and how they do things. Well, they got like what you call future fund.
Yeah, the sovereign wealth fund. Yeah.
Yeah, the sovereign wealth fund. And that's what it's called. And they refer to it as a future fund when I was listening to the podcast. But you are right. And they got it like down pat. What they do, they put all this oils into this fund. Or the money from the resources from the oil, they put it into this fund, and what they do, like in an event, I was listening, like say if inflation goes up or whatever the case may be, then they got the reserves there to counteract that. If inflation goes up, they got the money there, try to offset it. So, more or less people don't go on hard times and cost of living don't go up. And so forth. And I was listening, and it made a lot of sense. And they also focus on the profits for generating jobs. Like they focus on the profits first, so when you get all this money into the pot, then you use the money to create jobs. And I was listening to it, and man, it was truly amazing, because you look at here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we got all the resources, we got oil, we got hydro, mining, whatever, yet we're in debt billions and billions of dollars. So what we should be doing is look at how Norway do things. Now, we just signed this agreement recently, Bay de Nord, whatever, and I hope it's a good deal and it do translate into a lot of jobs and a lot of net profits into our coffers. But not only that, how come we don't have like refineries here and all that stuff? Because, I mean, we got it all here on our doorstep. I don't understand why we're not refining our own oil here, and if we did all that, the cost would be a lot lower. So I don't get the concept of how we're doing things.
We don't get it.
Send oil. Yeah,
we don't get it, and we didn't get it in the past.
Yeah.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But sorry, Darrell, go ahead.
Right. No, that's fine. No, you're right. So I don't understand why we got shipped oil out to refine, then come back, and we're paying all these mega dollars. But why don't we? I don't understand why we don't have all this on our doorstep. And I think I challenge Tony Wakeham to take a look at all this stuff, because I mean we have refineries, so we're always going to need oil, and it could be done with 3% or less carbon emissions. This technology at this day and age. So why don't we have refinery on our doorstep? Because, I mean, the oil is just offshore, but yet now I think oil today is over $100 a barrel because due to what's happening in the Middle East. But if we had everything on our doorstep, what a difference that will make. So I encourage them to take a look at Norway, their future fund, and see how they do it. I know Norway is a country and we're a province. I addressed this issue before, but it doesn't matter. Look at their concept, how they do things, and look how much better we could be better off.
Well, there is a difference there as far as state-owned goes. When their income comes from all the fields. I mean, they have... I'm not even sure. It's like 80% tax rate on their oil companies, and they get dividends from Equinor. I'd be fascinated. I've had some good chats with Tor Loseth, the Canadian president, the country president for Equinor here, who's the front man, who's been the guy at all the briefings, all the Energy NL conferences. He's the guy that speaks for the company, was there alongside Premier Wakeham for the announcement recently on the benefits agreement, which I should mention again is a benefits agreement for Bay de Nord. It's not the agreement. No. They still haven't sanctioned it yet, so we should always keep that in the back of our minds. It's not a done deal. Arguably no more than the MOU on Churchill Falls, which seems to have been just disappeared off the radar. I can't imagine why. We got a month to go before the artificial deadline, if you will, of April 1st to get yes or no on that MOU. But it's been done differently. It is, look, unless we started out that way. If you compare the take that Norway has taken, I think it's like $2 trillion was the last number I saw. $348 billion.
Yeah, you are right.
$250 billion in the previous year. of annual profits on average, and because it's they have direct ownership of their fields. They went about it a different way, and it does make a difference when it's state owned. I mean, we have to always navigate what Ottawa's doing and how we're going to do it with them. And as far as a refinery goes, we have a refinery, but we've made a schmozzle of that over the years. So there you go.
Well, yeah, that was my whole point there. We got a refinery on our doorstep, but it's like you said, schmozzles more or less. That's my whole point with it all. We got all the assets, we got everything here, and it just don't make total sense. And and talking about that other MOU for the Upper Churchill, I mean, we'll see what transpires there. It has gone very quiet. You are right. But, I mean, when I did my research with that, you look at, a lot of companies now, like data centers and AI, whatever, there's a demand for hydro now in that area alone. I was reading, it's up by, 165%. So what we got to start looking as well is, yes, we look at all angles, but we got to start looking at that because I tell you now, there's a lot of big companies are interested in all this, investing in this area. So don't narrow our options to just one entity. I mean, look at all these options. You could have a big company come in. I know it could be anyone like Amazon or whatever the case may be. That you said, oh man, you got a gem here, and you can negotiate and work out things now that way. So keep our options wide open. Just don't be, how can I put it? Don't have tunnel vision. Look at the whole picture in general, and we got to look to the future, and how we could prosper. Because it's very sad, Brian. It really blows my mind. We got all these assets. So if it's mining oil, hydro, and yet it don't make total sense. We're like the mess we are in, and people could be living a lot better. We had all these resources and done right, and money into the government coffers, people could be living a lot better today. You wouldn't have to worry about costs raising, going up here and there or whatever, because you could have government could have enough money in the coffers to offset it when bad times do occur. So I encourage Tony Wakeham, whoever, to come on your show and I like for him to talk about what we're discussing here today and be sincere and serious about it. No, rather than just talk about it, nothing done. Talk about it and take action.
We can't get out of our own. We can't get out of our own way sometimes, Darryl. Look, in a perfect world,
you're right.
We wouldn't have the senseless waste of time back and forth in the House Assembly. They'd be getting together in a room and saying, rather than be fighting with each other, let's put our minds together. Let politics aside on certain things, especially this one, and especially on two of the largest projects, mega projects that could be facing this province. They're both just sitting, waiting in the wings. And what are we going to do? We have an opportunity now to make some of this right, as you're pointing out, some of the missteps of the past, and everything that comes with that. Like I said, that's pie in the sky, I know. But, the waste of time that we have with debating, and putting on show for people when really we have some great minds in the House of Assembly. And if they could just get past themselves or over themselves and, politics, I've said it, I was 12 years old when I first said to my dad, I don't get it. So you're telling me no matter who it is, because they're red or blue, that's the way you vote. I mean, I'm sorry, that was archaic to me back in the day, and it still is. And I know it's a little bit out there for some people, but I don't care. I mean, look, the bottom line, we could be doing better. Instead of, we've got some great minds. The Liberals have a lot of intel from the holding government for the past decade or so. And the Tories have some great minds in there with a lot of expertise, not just in the House, but in their offices, and deputy ministers and assistant deputy ministers and staff who have great experience with this. And instead of speaking up, if it's a political division, then they're just going to hold their fire. And, instead of pointing out where we could go right, they want to point out where they went wrong.
For sure, right, and you summed it up very, very well, Brian. I totally agree with you. And there is a lot of great minds, but the great energy is just being totally wasted. Like they're into the House Assembly there, like they're talking over each other, chirping, and talking about somebody's shoes or whatever the case may be. I mean, that's totally. There's no words for it. It's just totally degrading. Focus on the issues. I don't care what party, political party. Focus on what needs to be done. Give up this other foolishness and allow people have to say, now, we're not going to always agree to everything or whatever, but just show the respect. Let the people have their say, and then if you don't agree with, well, have a debate, and then try to figure out the problem and focus the positive energy in the right direction to get things going. But none of like what was happening there recently, I've seen so much of it, I couldn't listen to it no more. I mean, is total disgraceful, and so I call it political mongering, because I think they're probably trying to score points or whatever. But give up that foolishness and focus on what needs to be done. Don't matter what party, opposition, whatever. We need to get down to it and work together as a province. That way we all could prosper and benefit. And this is what needs to be done. And I hope for in the future that this stuff do be eliminated. And the way I look at it, if it don't stop and people still continue on with foolishness, well, then take away the privilege to speak, because they're wasting positive time and it's going to positive to negative. We want all positive. So if they're going to be negative, well, then, you should lose your right to speak, because you're not benefiting nobody.
Yeah, which the Speaker, Paul Lane, threatened to do last week. And to be clear, Darrell, it's been worse than this. It's just that where they all came, and I heard, John Hogan mention, or Wake, I'm not sure it was, but somebody in the House was just explaining and saying, look, we were all on a break, and we're just back in the House, and some new members. You're still adults. That should never be an excuse. It's like, can you control if you can control, great. If you can't, well, then maybe you should hold your fire. But, so it's been worse. And this week I will perfectly call a spade a spade. It's been good this week, much better after last week. We'll see how long it lasts. You're going to have raised voices and you're going to have a bit of shouting. But you know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm talking about. It's the under the breath stuff. It's the jabs, and then when they go off, and as you mentioned, some of the more ridiculous stuff. And look, we shouldn't be wasting any time in our legislature right now. If we're going to sit, get some work done while we're sitting. Otherwise, stay in your offices and do the work. I'd rather that. And, one other thing on that, from a journalist point of view, I've done it for 30 years or so. It always irks me to no end. One other thing, my little rant here this morning, but got me going. We line up to ask the Premier and the Ministers questions after a question period or whatever. Same old song and dance. And they have 10,000% more information than we have, so it's a game. As a reporter, you're trying to ask the right question. If you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get an answer, let alone the right one. And we know, going back to, and I'll say it again, the breast cancer scandal. I remember the minister sitting there, and they asked him, "Why didn't you tell us that you had that there were these issues going on?" He said, "Nobody asked me." And that's still an attitude there. If you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the answer you want, and that's fine. But we know they have all the information, and it's a game because they have it. And unless you ask the right question, you're not going to really get the most important information that people want to know. So the better thing to do is just say, "Look, Minister, is there anything we're not asking you right now that may not look good on government, but people ought to know?" That's the question that should be asked every single time at the end of a news conference, if you ask me.
Right, and I totally agree what you're saying there, Brian. And on another note, if they got the information, they should be releasing it and telling people. Like, they might say, "Well, if you don't ask, I'm not telling you." But I don't agree with that. If they got information, they should be telling people regardless.
Yeah, but it's the words they use too, right? It's the tricky words and the way they play with words. And yesterday again, like John Hogan, the opposition leader, mentioned, the tone from government has sort of changed from, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You're going to get your new income tax reduction. You're going to get this. You're going to get that. Now it's changed to, we hope to be able to do this. Now, whether that's just a fact that they're actually got into the books now after being away from government for years, that's fair. Yeah. People will say, "Oh, the honeymoon's over," or whatever. Well, arguably, I would say the honeymoon's not over until you get to your first budget, because you're still reviewing everything and trying to get your feet wet. And in many ways, the Tories never expected to win. Mark it down. No. They will tell you that, So it was a bit out of the blue. So anyway, I'll give you a minute to wrap up there, Darrell.
And like what you're just saying there, I call people when they got all the answers and don't take no action. I used to always call them lunchroom lawyers. And you say, "What do you mean? You got all the answers and everything, but yet you will not take action and do anything about it." Okay. And so that's my moral of the story. Don't just talk about things and this needs to be done, that needs to be done. Do it. If it needs to be done, just do it. None of this political mongering. And I like to sum up as well, like all our resources, I'll put it in a general concept, is that we got the gem, oil, hydro, whatever, and look at Norway for the oil, even though they're state control, whatever, to take a look how they are doing things and how we could apply it to ourselves, and probably amalgamate with the federal government, whatever, try to do something for the better on all levels of government.
I can assure you they've looked at it, and they continue to look at it, but unfortunately that horse has very much left the barn, and it would require quite an overhaul of the systems that we use in this province, and the bureaucracy is already deep enough. Darrell, thanks a lot for the call, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you again, Brian, and keep up the great work as usual. And thank you for having me on your show, and all the best to you and staff at VOCM and your listening audience.
Greatly appreciate it. Thanks, Darrell. Take care.
Thank you. You as well.
Right.
Bye.
All right, Dave, let's take that second break in the morning. Wow, that was a quick half hour. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. And Donna, you're on the air.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good morning. Fine. How are you?
Oh, living the dream.
It sounds like it. It sounds like you're living it
like most people.
on a mobile basis there. You're driving, are you?
I am using hands-free, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Where are you at, if you don't mind me asking? Whereabouts?
Down in Flat Rock.
Okay. How are the roads down there, or is that a silly question?
No, the roads are half decent. A lot better than some places in St. John's, that's for sure.
Interesting. So what's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm a school bus driver.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. The reason why I'm calling today is I'm thinking there's a little bit of confusion on the go with regards to emergency services and school bus drivers. I'll give you 2 examples. Last year, we had a bus driver out on Higgins Line. They were offloading children across 4 lanes of highway, or like 4 lanes of road. And I seen an ambulance pass by, never even stopped, just breezed by like no lights on or nothing. And then yesterday, I seen a bus, had these flashers and everything on it, and they stopped on. And he was on Portugal Cove Road, and he was bringing children on the bus. And there was an ambulance across the street, and he had his flashers, like his red lights and everything on, and he stopped. And I'm like, if you got flashers on, you got a patient in the back of your ambulance. Don't you want to get that person to a hospital ASAP? You know?
Yeah.
And yeah,
not
so
funny.
I'm kind of like, no. Well, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, interesting, confusing.
A little bizarre. A little bizarre, if you ask me, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I understand, like, the ambulance could have looked and noticed that the kids were on the bus and kept going. But I always thought that an ambulance with the flashers or a fire truck or whatever, everyone else has to stop. They have to go. They got the right of way, always, because it's emergency services.
Absolutely. They are an emergency. The bus is trying to prevent one.
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of looking at it, and I'm like, man, like I don't know if they understand, what the rules of the road are. Like bus drivers, we have to, because we're offloading and bringing children on our bus, so we got to know the rules of the road. We got to know when to put our flashers on, when to put our stop out, and all that good stuff. But I don't know, emergency services. And here's a prime example. I'm coming up Portugal Cove Road today. It was in a fire truck and the fire department ambulance behind them. And instead of people, like I was on the right lane, instead of people coming over, they were like next to me, stopped right next to me. And I'm like, what about if this guy's got to go around a couple of cars and stuff, and you're sitting next to me rather than behind me or in front of me, and they just sitting there. And I'm like, okay, rules of the road are very vague today.
Donna, I have to say, I have a myriad of questions for you, and I wish I had all day to talk to you as a school bus driver from what you see in the run of a day and the run of a morning. I'm hoping, so you've seen these sorts of things happen. How often is the question? Because we'll get people say, oh, this has always happened, this has always happened. We get one-offs, we get it. I mean, things happen. You know, you can never assume what's going on in another vehicle, right? It's the most solitary place in the world. You think you're in your own little space, in your own little bubble, but you're out there, and everybody knows, and you have to be, you know, you don't want to have an interaction that's unnecessary that could lead you down this road. So the one thing I would say is, you know, clearly the emergency vehicle has, I mean, the bus driver, that's an odd dynamic. If you have the bus that has the arm out, kids are about, you know, that signals kids are going to get off and they're going to cross right up in front of the street, and then you have an emergency vehicle. That's an unusual, unique situation that, let's all admit, probably doesn't happen every day. But I could see it during rush hour, especially around, say, Holy Heart, Brother Rice here in the city, where the central fire station is right there, and rush hour, and it's unavoidable sometimes that they have to use those routes, even though I'm sure that they have a system whereby they try to stay away from them at that hour. But I'm sure you've seen it all. Have you ever thought of writing a book?
Brian, if I sat down and told you my life,
Yep.
I'd have a series. It wouldn't be just one book. It'd be one like of 5.
I have no doubt, Donna. You know, and what you see. I mean, look, we all see people spin, you know, fly by the school bus no matter what, even if the thing is out. It just boggles the mind because you want that on your conscience after you know, the child that's walking in front. It's too late when it happens.
Yep.
But how do you find it these days? Just dealing. What grades do you carry?
I have kindergarten to grade 6 on one run, and then I have high school on a second run. So I do 2 runs in the morning, 2 runs in the afternoon. I got to tell you, it's probably the most positive job that a person could actually have, the most rewarding, because you have beautiful youngsters, and I'm going to say youngsters because we're Newfoundlanders, and that's what we say. But you know, we got beautiful people on our bus. I love it.
I would take the primary kids, no sweat. You know what? I would do that job. I would love to do that job, to see them all coming on in the morning, and the backpacks all, you know, and the excitement, you know, the innocence that's still there. No offense to the high school students, but we've all been in high school. So, you know.
But, you know, my kids are amazing.
Yep.
I pick up the kids from Gonzaga, and I can tell you right now, they are very bright, very polite, very respectful people. Like, I really, really enjoy them on the bus. I really do. They're great, you know?
Yeah, listen, and that's not to tire. Yeah, I know. It's not to tire everybody. I mean, they're bad apples right here and there, but yeah. Donna, I got to get off to the next call. I'd love for you to stay in touch and give us the odd shout out every now and then. Give us a call, just from your perspective as a school bus driver. It's one of those things, you know, we have the RNC on in the morning sometimes to give us, you know, just a lay of the land. It would be great if we just had an intel from a bus driver every morning to give us a lay of what they're seeing every day, especially in your break from the morning runs to the afternoons. But yeah, I got to get going. Thanks so much for the call.
Have a great day, Brian.
You too. And everybody, please drive safely, especially around a freaking school bus. Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Dave, let's go to line number 3. And Ross, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm okay for Thursday. Thanks, Ross, for asking. What's on the mind?
You're quite welcome. Yeah, I got so much on my mind, I could write an encyclopedia too, Brian. But I have to say, like, I watch the NTV news every evening. I watch lots on the House of Commons and whatever, eh?
Okay.
And I've always said that in the government offices is like a fucking,
oh my goodness, please, David.
A daycare center.
Yeah.
It's like a daycare center.
Ross, please. Ross, I just got to interrupt for 1 sec because that F-bomb came out so easily. I just want to remind you one more and we got to let you go, okay?
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Go ahead.
But I have to say, like, last night watching the NTV news really confirmed what I thought all the time. When you have a member of our legislative assembly say, "Mom, we're not arguing, we are debating." So on a provincial level, that's where our politicians are. On a federal level, there is no difference in the federal government either. You know, it's time for our politicians to mature, like the kids that are on that Gonzaga bus that the lady just spoke about. You know, child daycare starts before that bus the lady drives, and now all of a sudden we got all these intelligent people in the government that are not much better than a daycare center. So that's my voice on that. That confirmed, last evening the news confirmed what we have. Now, I have lots of other issues. I could talk on and on and on, but I'm just going to leave you on that thought. You know, like, come on. You know, you're professional, intelligent people representing the people of Newfoundland, and you're in the House of Assembly, and you're playing like little kids that should be in the sandbox, and when one gets his nose up, you stick him in the corner.
It's tough, but it's a behavior that's been learned and watched and repeated over and over for decades. And people will say it's been like that forever, so it's going to stay like that. And I had Sherry Gammon-Walsh, MHA down at St. Mary's on the other day, and she made the point, you know, Brian, it's not always like that. And I fully, I hope not. I mean, you're not going home in your family and acting like that. And you're not going up in the 8th floor offices with the premier or in meetings with executives or unions acting like that. I wouldn't expect it. I get it. Question period is theater. It's theater to them. It shouldn't be theater. It should be serious business, but it's become theater, especially when the cameras went in there. We all hope that would keep them more accountable, but it hasn't. They don't flinch at all. It's like you don't care, or either they just forget they're on sometimes, because I can't imagine that they're thinking that their constituents are proud of some of the stuff that goes on in there. So I just made the point, look, it's happening during question period, but that's when we're all watching, you know?
Yeah, but that's ridiculous. Now, the other thing I must say about these floor crossers that get elected by people on a mandate and their promises when they get elected to a certain party, and then they cross over and go with another party. Like, that's not fair to the residents that voted them in to represent them on the morals that they put to the people.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Laurie Idlout, the Nunavut MP who crossed the floor this week, the latest one.
I talk about all the ones that crossed the floor, because, you know, you get voted in on certain things. And then when you get in that position and then you jump to the other side, that's not right. When you get elected to a party on certain principles, if you want to leave and go to the other side, you should start at the bottom of the list. You don't take all those benefits with. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I know exactly.
That's totally wrong. It's discriminatory. It's you're lying to the people that voted you in.
Yeah, it's you, Ross. Only because of the time, I got to get the break. But you're right. It's all of those things, but it's also legal. It's also permissible. It also happens a lot. It's happened years all over. And again, I just made the point, just because it does happen doesn't mean it should continue to happen. Yeah. But you're going to have to deal with your own conscience on these things. You know, you get elected with an ideology. You think the NDP has a different ideology, although they are closer and closer to the Liberal and the left, if you say, the left of center.
Whatever.
But I agree, you know, the arguments have been made, you know, that, you know, you got elected under that party and you should at least hold out the term. But, you know, times are very different than they used to be. And when you have such a distinct change in world makeup and order, as Carney so well articulated in Davos, things change. Things are really volatile right now, not just oil, but also, you know, the solidified position of an MP in their particular seat. And, you know, a lot of people are swayed by the straightforward sort of almost throwing politics to the side attitude. I mean, we got to do what we got to do right now in order to survive, you know, basically in a national sense, and to be able to fit into the world order here right now. And it's so volatile that some of these things, have to be looked at in that lens. But I got to get to the break, Ross. I really appreciate the call. That's a conversation, though, that I would love to continue any time of the day with you.
Yeah, well, I got a lot to say about that,
Yep.
and...
Well, I got to let you go now, but don't be a stranger.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thanks for understanding. All right, take care. All right, Dave, off to that break. I hope I'm not too curt with him. I just want, actually, Dave, before I go, just a quick note on the ambulances and emergency vehicles. I got an email. Absolutely, you're right. And if it didn't get explained, we didn't get into it enough in that conversation with our school bus driver, emergency vehicles have... also, if that arm is out, anyone who's driving by it, because the bus driver might not necessarily see that emergency vehicle coming, but we can all see the bus with the arm out, so they have to, with the person in it or not. If that should so happen, then it's, I don't know how often it happens, but if an ambulance is coming up on the school bus with the arm out, it only makes sense that, it's a good chance kids are going to be crossing the road, no matter what vehicle you are. That arm is out and the red lights are flashing. You hold your place. Let's get off to the break and be right back with Ron. John wants to talk roads in Central. Beverly Jordan is in the queue, and Dr. Lisa Moore, President of MUNFA, going to talk about the provincial budget after the break. Welcome back to the show, right to line number 5. And Lisa Moore, President of MUNFA at Memorial University. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. That's such a hard question today. It's a tough day. It's a tough anniversary with Cougar Flight. That's on my mind a lot today. Like I said, I'm not gonna lie. So I'll temper everything with that. But otherwise, moving on. Fair to Midland, they used to say.
Yeah, it is absolutely. That's a tough one for sure.
Yeah. Lisa, I know a little while ago there was certainly the pre-indications from the budget of what's coming down and some of the things that changes, course eliminations too at MUN I saw there too. But, the Premier has said they won't balance the books on the backs of students, but MUN has funding issues and now cuts to classes and faculty jobs. What can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, there's more than one way, right, that students can kind of bear the brunt of that funding crisis, really, that we're seeing at Memorial. One way is by tuition costs, but, a much more serious way in a lot of ways is if the value of the education they're paying for is permitted to erode or decline, right? So we've had, several years of multi-year kind of deep cuts by the previous provincial government. We're in a position now where Memorial's funding is tens of millions of dollars less than it was in 2014, and that's without adjusting for inflation or anything like that. There's been quite a bit of discussion, I think, lately from the university leadership regarding the idea of contraction with care. For us, it's really important to give a message to say that cuts and contraction come with real and very serious costs. So it's important that those real costs of years of those cuts to Memorial's funding are seen and they're understood. So we have a new provincial government, a budget that's coming down at any time. There's certainly a responsibility to ensure that those decisions are informed by an understanding of what's really hanging in the balance here. And we are at a place where, these cuts and that contraction are translating into, faculty cuts and changes to course offerings, reductions of course offerings. Those are things that very much impact students and impact the educators that dedicate their whole careers to educating those students.
Yeah, and it's going to affect my daughter, who is going to MUN next year, and especially undergrad students, like these first-year math and statistics courses that you mentioned.
Absolutely.
I'll let you go ahead. As you mentioned, a lot of the students struggling with, the system, the way it played out after COVID-19 and, how people are trying to adapt. But I'll let you explain it better than I.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have an undergraduate who chose Memorial as well. So I understand that experience for sure. And the reality is many first-year students who come in, there's a number of them who do have a kind of a challenge area around first-year math. Many of us who've gone through university remember that as well. Partly that's because, some of the background and the preparation in math can really vary. People have different high school experiences there and different opportunities.
Mine was not.
So they come in with
mine was not good. Mine was not good.
Yeah.
I chose journalism, and one of the best lines we always had was, "They always said there'd be no math," but that's not true either. But sorry to interrupt.
That's true. And it's one of those things, right, that often there'll be a course or two across a degree or an academic program that'll be a challenge. And math sometimes is that for folks. And we've seen a real change since COVID-19. And this has been seen really broadly because of the changes that our children experienced in their educational experience over that period of time. We see more of those students having a little bit of a harder time with math. And that really means that, they need more kind of focused attention, and you have to be looking at ways to be able to adapt and really foster their success in different ways. And at Memorial, so we've got 8 contractual faculty, most of whom teach those first-year math courses, and they kind of specialize in that area and have done so for, a decade, 2 decades in some cases. And what we're looking at for the upcoming year, unfortunately, is what we're hearing is that 7 out of those 8 positions will be eliminated. And to make up the shortfall there, we're looking at a proposal that is going to see class sizes double. And the number of class offerings, so the number of sections of first-year math, reduced by almost half. Those are really concerning circumstances when we look at an area that's already a bit of a challenge for a lot of students, but also a requirement, right? So most undergraduate students are required for their programs to successfully complete 1 or more first-year math courses. That's true for students who are in sciences, who are in engineering, who are in lots of different areas of the university, business as well. If they aren't able to be successful in the first time around or in the first year, it really stalls their ability to be able to move forward. And the biggest worry might be that, it might lead them to discontinuing their education completely rather than finding ways to kind of clear that hurdle and then move on to, courses that might be very well suited to their skills and strengths.
Lisa, only because it just turned 10 o'clock and I got to go to a newscast. Do you have a minute just to hang on? I got a couple other questions. I don't want to let you go. There's too many issues when we're talking about Memorial. It's too important. Do you have a minute to hang on and just continue on for another 5 minutes after the news?
Absolutely.
Oh, God love you. Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to put you on hold there, and we're going to take a newscast, and I'll come right back to you after that. Awesome. Okay. Put Lisa on hold, off to the news, Dave, and and we'll be right back. Thank you very much, Sarah Strickland. She ain't lying. I think that's the most I've scraped my windows this morning when I came out in a long time. That was actually some hard labor. And also, just to dovetail on what Sarah mentioned there, we're getting lots of reports from the highway, TCH between Holyrood and St. John's especially. Very slippery. Just slow it down. You know what your tires and your vehicle can handle. And if you're in a rush, you won't get there. Simple as that. And also, I see John is in the queue there too. John, we'll get to you. He's going to give us an update on the roads in Central. But let's go back to Lisa Moore, president of MUNFA at Memorial University. Thanks, Lisa, for your patience, for sticking with me through the news.
No problem, Brian. I'm thinking of all the parents of the new and early drivers out there this morning with the icy conditions. Again,
of which my daughter is one of them. You made the great and important point, just before the break, that the tuition is one thing. That's where all the focus has been from government. We're going to freeze tuition for the coming year and not on the backs of students, but losing essential courses and the staff that instruct them. That's a whole other kettle. I mean, unless the government properly still funds MUN, with a freeze, I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm interested in seeing the budget, but what's your say?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the kind of question of the day, right? And for our community, the new provincial government obviously has a decision to make, and for MUN's educators for sure, and I think our other, colleagues in the university, that's the big question, right? Are they going to choose to kind of continue what's been really a decade long of depletion of our only university, or are they going to choose to chart their own course and kind of forge ahead, with that commitment that looking at education as an investment rather than just a cost. We're, of course, hoping that there's going to be, a return to understanding just how critical and important Memorial is for the province overall, and how essential it is to kind of preparing us, right, for the future. If we want to be able to take advantage of opportunities for prosperity, prosperity favors the prepared, right? And we need to have a workforce that's going to be ready to take those opportunities. We do have an aging population in Newfoundland and Labrador, the most in all of Canada. We've got labor shortages in a number of really significant areas that Memorial trains professions in, nurses, physicians, psychologists, social workers, engineers, lots of areas like that. Those are all our folks. If we can train them in the province, they're certainly much more likely to stay and, contribute that education back into the province and into our services. But they really need to see, I think, the province invest in them in order to be able to do that.
And we haven't even talked about the actual bricks and mortar, but, it really feels like with all the issues going on, it just feels like MUN and all of its history is at a real, I don't know what you want to call it, a watershed moment, or which way is it going to go? Are we going to, as you said, I think in one of the lines, the decades-long depletion of MUN, or are we going to, God, dare I say it, make MUN great again? It just feels like it's really at a crossroads. Either if we don't find the right soft spot, the sweet spot to balance, to keep MUN as the institution that it is, not just for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but we know, right, the international students that come in and that it attracts, and the great work that's done there, the science and everything else. MUN's got a great reputation, but right now, the way we look at it, it's not very favorable. I know that MUNFA has requested a meeting with government, to discuss all this prior to the budget. And that faculty are urging them to, of course, invest in the university. Any word on that? Do you have a meeting confirmed, and what hope do you have that it'll make a difference?
We don't have a meeting confirmed with the provincial government yet. We do have meetings actually set up with NDP and Liberal folks. We're hopeful that we'll have a chance to be able to discuss directly, with Premier VOCM and with Minister Din. We had a very positive meeting with Minister Din in December. But yeah, I mean, the reality is that, public funds are not plentiful. So I think we're all agreed that they need to be used responsibly and they need to be used transparently. And that means spending that's really guided by our core values, right? Not vanity projects. I think that's how the public feels. I would say Memorial faculty absolutely agree with that.
When you say a vanity
but that's not the same as, sorry?
I was going to say, when you say a vanity project, you wouldn't be necessarily talking about Signal Hill, would you?
Well, I think when you're in times where, you're looking at austerity, you need to really focus on ensuring that your primary mandate, the academic of the university, is your top priority. I'll say MUNFA certainly had concerns about the viability of Signal Hill back at the
campus.
Time.
The campus we're talking about. Sorry, I should have been more clear. But yeah.
Exactly. About that investment, right? Not that those things are not, nice to be able to have those opportunities. I'm sure they were, it's very valuable to have that. But if we're in a time where we're looking at austerity, needing to be, really cautious about what we're choosing. And it's difficult because faculty are often, we don't have a seat at those decision-making tables. But in some ways, we're now being asked to pay the bill for it. But the other thing I do want to make clear is the idea of, although people want to ensure that any funds that are provided are used responsibly, right, and they're put where they need to be put, that's very very different from begrudging our young people higher education. So one thing I'll make perfectly clear, and I talk to a lot of folks about this, and I'm a Memorial alumnus myself. I did my undergraduate there. I did one of my graduate degrees there. I know that nobody works harder or will sacrifice more to provide opportunities and resources for their children than Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. That is who we are. And Memorial really exists because of that, right? So Newfoundlanders decided the truest way to honor the people that we lost in war wasn't just through like symbols or monuments, but through opportunity, right? And that's really special. I think for those of us who've, had an opportunity to benefit from a memorial education and be part of that living legacy, there's a lot of pride that comes with that. I'm sure Premier VOCM and Minister Din feel the same way. And to me, that legacy tells you everything you need to know about our people and what we value. And that's something that's worth celebrating and worth protecting, because ultimately the university belongs to the people. And when we, take away from that, when we neglect it or when we under-resource it, the folks who are really losing, it's us, right? It's the people of Newfoundland and Labrador who are, and the opportunity to be able to, for our children to have a chance to build their lives and their careers here and to invest that education back into the province. That's a pretty special thing. And I hope that there's, really clear consideration of that at government's decision-making tables when it comes to the upcoming budget. We could really use a turnaround here and just a chance to do the work that we want to do to help the people of this province and to give the opportunities that I think our young people and our families deserve.
Yeah, I mean, MUN is one of our flagship institutions. It's a symbol of the province. It's one of our reputations, it's top 1, top 2, top 3, name others. I mean, it's right there. And I will say, Lisa, that we have a call into the Education Minister, Paul Din, to just give us some insight, his side of what his response to what you have to say here, of course, and you've said it today, but it's been said before, and we know the situation with MUN. It's almost like we're just reminding them. But good luck with this, and let's hope we can see some tangible results come out of the budget. MUN for President, Dr. Lisa Moores, I really appreciate the call. Thanks so much, and please keep us updated, especially if you get that meeting with government as opposed to the easy one with the opposition.
Thanks so much, Brian, and we'd be happy to come back. I'd be happy to come back and chat more. And I'll just say to Donna, the bus driver, Donna, I'd read that book, so I'm going to stay tuned for that. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to hand in that too, because, oh, wow, yeah. I second that emotion. Thanks so much, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
Take care. Bye. All right, Dave, off to the break. Back with, we'll get that quick update from John on the roads, and Beverly Jordan's in the queue. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Open Line. Let's go to John. John on line 1. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for your patience. Sorry, they were chock full there for a while, and I should mention we got some lines open now if people want to get in and possibly talk about what you might be wanting to talk about, the roads in Central.
Yes, I want to complain about the roads in Central. I mean, it's a fair-sized area. I live in a little town called Pleasant View. I don't know if you're familiar with Pleasant View down by Point Leamington.
I know the Point Leamington area. I don't. I can honestly say there's sometimes, I'll hear a new community in this, and it boggles my mind because I'm getting up there, and I haven't heard Pleasant View. I thought you were going to say Pleasantville, which we all know where that is, but. No, so it's just how far away from Leamington? North, south, east, and west? A few kilometers, or?
Well, about between 8 and 10 kilometers from Point Leamington.
And what's the road like that way?
Well, it was not very good. I mean, the road here in Pleasant View was upgraded and paved back in 92, I think it was. And that road had no repair since, and it's getting ridiculous to try to drive over it. But the worst road is from Botwood to Point Leamington. I mean, a lot of people use that road, like Pleasant View, Leading Tickles, Point Leamington, Point Grove.
Right, that goes up through Northern Arm, right, in Point of Bay, that area?
Yeah, and
gotcha.
When you turn to Point Leamington, you'll go on to Phillips Inn, Point of Bay, but their road is bad too.
Yep.
And coming across the neck, we call it, between Northern Arm and Pine Leamington. I've never seen the road so bad in my life before.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly where you mean now. That's right. If I go right, I end up Point of Bale on the coastline, right? Right, but you're up around Bully's Cove even, that way.
Yeah.
Now I got a picture. You're right on the coastline, north central coast. It's funny when we do these stories or we do a story on a community there, it's always hard to sort of pinpoint north central Newfoundland. Like we talk about the east coast, the northeast coast, but you're right north central. Yeah, you're right up in the middle there.
And I called our member, Cleveland Forsey, called his office in Bishop Falls, but he's out in St. John's. The other house is open. I was talking to his assistant or secretary or whatever she is.
And how'd that go?
Well, it sounded like that's what she could do about it. She was saying it was the weather. Well, the roads were bad before we got all this snow.
Well, that's true.
They were bad the last 20 years.
Thanks for that. Okay, we understand it is the weather.
Every year it's getting worse because nothing done with it. They put a bit of asphalt in the potholes, and that's only a few weeks, and that's gone again. And we got a lot of people working in Pine Leamington using the road between Northern Arm and Pine Leamington, working in the glove factory in Pine Leamington. They got to travel over that road twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. And it was ridiculous. And where's the safety on the roads? You can't just drive straight. You got to be in and out all the time, right?
Yeah, and the more you go in and out, you're probably crossing over to the other side of the road, and then that's another level.
Yeah. I've drove over there lots of times. I've been on the opposite side of the road. You clear the holes, right? Yeah,
and you see that here in the city. Obviously, I don't want to compare. Like you're off the beaten track a bit, but when you made the point, there's so many. How many people are working in that glove factory now?
I'm not sure. There's
anyone around from that fact? I mean, I'd be willing to have a listen to them too, because they got to navigate that road as well. But some people will go around that pothole at the risk of an accident. I mean, you don't want to lose a rim, and what do you expect? I mean, if the pothole's on your side of the road, the other side's got the right of way. Just as a reminder,
Oh yeah, and in the summertime, I got one of those bikes that's called a Spider. You got three wheels on it.
They're smart looking.
And when I go over that road, you got two wheels in front and one in the back. You got a job to get around those holes, right?
Nice rig. I've seen some of them Spiders around. That's a nice rig.
Oh yeah, nice rig, yeah.
Just saying.
We had a good road to drive on.
I'm waiting for that. That's I left it hanging there, John. It's going to be worse in the winter, obviously. And they may throw some bags of stuff in the holes. Have you seen any of that?
They were supposed to do some yesterday. Now I don't know if they did, or I haven't been over the road today.
Yeah.
And what else was something else I was going?
And you mentioned Pleeman's your member, eh?
Yes.
And he's also a minister in cabinet. Well, I mean, hey, we look forward to him in a perfect world. When a person from that district calls and has a problem with the road, the member will call and say, and give us the update. Yes, I'm aware of it. Yes, we're working on it. It's in the queue or whatever. But you make a good point. There's a lot of people traveling that road daily. Does it continue on up to Leading Tickles? Is there another way to get to that? I've never driven that far.
Yeah, there's only one way. You drive down through Pine Leamington to get to Leading Tickles, right?
Okay, yeah. Yep.
And driving down through the town of Pine Leamington, too, man, it's wicked, the potholes, eh?
Yeah, I hate to say it, off the beaten track, and I only say off the beaten track, say off the highways or the main thoroughfares. It's a rough go, and it is winter, and none of the roads are in great shape this time of year. They all take a beating, and the coal patch... they do what they do, I suppose, but that feels like a fool's errand all the time, too. That doesn't last, but... Yeah,
I called the Department of Highways office down here that's over in Northern Arm there. I couldn't get up to the supervisor. I was talking to one of the workers there, and they said, well, not much they can do. I know that, not much the workers can do, but he said... They do what they can with what they got, and they got no equipment to do anything, he said.
they can't do anything. You got to have the equipment to do it. If you haven't got it, well, what happens is no maintenance done on the road. Right?
Yeah, and that's exactly why, you'd want an MHA to come on to either say, well, okay, they have equipment, but here's how much they have. Or he's right, they don't have equipment right now, but here's why, and it's in another area. Or just anything to explain these kind of things, right? Because that's what they're there for. And, the on-the-ground comment and reaction to what's going on in reality. You know what's going on in reality because the road's a mess. And it's going to, it just leads to safety issues and concerns left, right, and center. As I said, the dead of winter it is, but by the sounds of it, the road's not much better in the summer, hey?
Not much better, no. It's just mainly patch up a few potholes, but
do you know if
last very long.
Do you know if it's on a list? I haven't had a chance to check the new, the roads list that they send out often enough. Every year everybody gets their pot, and we all know the mess that creates sometimes, the partisan politics that goes on there. But of course, you're in the member of the government now, so dare I say, you get a better chance of having a road upgrade than say somebody in the opposition. And
the only time we see our member is election time. That's it. Once the election is over, don't see him around at all. I don't anyway. I don't know if anybody else do. Yeah, I think they should be coming around more often than what they do. He's from this area too. He's from Leading Tickle.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I will never ask somebody how they voted, but were you a supporter of the government in the hopes that they would do better?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go. Let's see if your vote counts. And of course, the MHA is the man who can answer any of those questions. If I were a member, and open line, they were calling out my district and any issues with it, either my staff would call me, or if I didn't hear it myself, and if I heard it myself, I'd be calling open line. So let's see if we can get a little word from Pleeman just to, I won't say defend himself, but at least defend the work that's going on. And of course, any suggestion that there's just no equipment there to do the job. We can say that because it looks that way to us firsthand on the spot. But of course, there's always extenuating circumstances and other things going on behind the scenes. So listen, we can get an answer to that one for you, John. And I appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care and drive safely, whatever you do.
Okay, bye.
All right, take care. All right, Dave, off to the break. Bev is definitely next, and we got Gary who wants to have a chat about the World Baseball Classic. I am all over that after the break. Welcome back to the show. I just want to remind you, I got a note there again from, we had a caller, George, yesterday asking about hydro and specifically the Holyrood generating plant there. The thermal generating plant, which unfortunately is a big polluter, still burns at Bunker C. And he was just wondering about the output and to what extent that's contributing to the grid, or to what extent it is right now. I don't know for sure. I know it's still there as a backup. We've extended the life. Hydro has extended the life of it. In the wake of Muskrat, it was supposed to replace all of that, but of course that's taken a little longer. We know there were glitches with the Lil and the turnbuckles and other issues, vibrations and yada, yada, yada out to Soldier's Pond. A lot of issues there. But I have put in a call to Hydro, or just sent them a note just to see if we can get an update on to what extent that Holyrood is supplementing the grid at this point. And if there's any new timeline on its lifespan, or how long we might have to make use of that plant. So there's lots in that to unpack, and we can get into that if you like to. But for now, let's go right to Bev. You are on the air. Good morning, Bev.
How are you doing?
Okay, so as I said before, it's a loaded question for today. It's a tough day in some ways, but we are getting through. This is open line, and we'll take all comers. So, how are you doing, I guess, might be another question, Bev.
Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you that I am the mother of Constable Robin Jordan, who apparently, with quotation marks, that took her life in Labrador City on March the 9th, 2 years ago. So it's been a sad day for all of us that this has happened to. And I've been listening to you and talking about, I heard you saying about your daughter and all that kind of stuff. But mental health is big issue in our lives now, like whether it's through drugs or whether it's through whatever. But what I want to say is that the RNC has lost like 29 members of their crew that left because of resigned because of mental health issues, and RNC never even gave me a phone call to see like, hey Beth, how are you doing? Or I've been fighting with them to set up a memorial for Robin in St. John's and Labrador City. And the chief told me, or whatever her friggin' name is, told me that Robin's not the only one that passed away as an RNC officer. But Robin is the first RNC officer that, once again, in quotation marks, apparently took her life. And there's no need to put a memorial up for her. So what I want to say today to all St. John's and Labrador is that my daughter was the first RNC officer that took her life on the job with her own police gun. And I have begged them to, can you just put up a picture of her, like at the barracks in St. John's and Labrador, just for all of her co-workers and her friends to look at her picture and maybe help them to get through to another day, or to remind them that there's more to life, and maybe you got to second question, like, what this is all about, because there is another police officer, RNC officer, that was supposed to go to Labrador too, but she didn't go because of her mental health issues, but she was still on the streets of St. John's serving the RNC. So how can you serve the RNC if you have mental issues and you couldn't go to Labrador to do it, and the RNC allowed you to do it in St. John's? Like, Brian, like, that is so not right.
Yeah, Biv, I know we've spoken before, and I know you've been very vocal about this, and I know how, look, I'm not going to say I know exactly what you're going through because I haven't gone through it. So there's no way I would ever say that, just like anything. But, you've spoken...
Brian, I'm going to interrupt you right now. I have people who are there standing on my side, like Robin's co-workers, from whatever job that my child did. But I have a big issue with the RNC, and I really do. I have absolutely zero respect for them anymore. Zero.
Why?
Like, some of Robin's co-workers requested to set some flowers out by the RNC for her, and a bench and all that, and the RNC said no. Like, that is so unfair. My daughter, Robin, since she was like 6, 7 years old, and I talked to Patty Daly about this a few times, she used to always tell me, Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a police officer. And she did. And then she was forced to go to Labrador City. And she went there, and she tried her best. And I want to know what happened to my Robin in Labrador City that night. I really do. But I can get no answers from them. It's all like, any way that they can brush me off, they brushes me off. And that's as true as there's a God in heaven. They brushes me off. Like, there was a picture of her grandmother that one of her friends had done on a thing. Anyways, and there was another picture that I had of her and I when she was born, because she was a premature baby, and she wanted to take that. And I have asked the RNC in Labrador and the RCMP, and nobody knows where anything belonged to her. And all I get from them is her next of kin. Well, listen, her dad on the RNC apparently was her next of kin, but I was her next of kin with everything else. And whether I was or I wasn't, I am Robin's mom. And I can't find out, like, where anything is to. I can't. I always get brushed off, and that's not fair, because my Robin will never, ever be at peace. Never will she be at peace till that stuff is brought back here to me.
Bev,
listen, you're a parent too, because
yes.
I heard you as I was listening today about your daughter and all that. Can you even imagine losing your daughter? And
okay, Bev. So as I previously mentioned, right, this is something deeply personal to you. I mentioned my daughter in the context of something completely different. So I'd appreciate if we could, stick to the subject at hand here and not, suspect on, pontificate or wonder about what would happen if something else happened, something so tragic. So I'd rather we didn't do that. But I will, you just mentioned something there about the father. Is that where this problem lies, that you are not considered the next of kin or one of the next of kin? I know you are the mother. Again, I know you've spoken to Patty before about this, and that's fine, but not everybody heard those conversations. And the people are wondering, like, what's the issue here? They heard you mention that you can't get access to the things because the father has access and you don't. Is that where this lies? The difficulty?
Pretty much so, because apparently true, what I heard from the RNC is that her father was next of kin with RNC, but I was her next of kin with everything else. And I really don't care about that. That's no here or there with me, because I know what's what and where everything stood. And like, I know all that. Like, Robin was with me all the friggin' time, and I was going down there with her on Monday morning, and I got a knock on my door at 8 o'clock or somewhere around that, between 8 and 8:30, from the head sergeant and the deputy chief, that told me that my daughter died last night. and there's so many unanswered questions. And because I wasn't her next of kin, when I come to RNC, I can't find out anything, and that's not fair. That is so not right. I'm her mother.
I agree. It doesn't sound fair on the face. We don't have all of the information that you have at your disposal. All we can hear is that it's not fair. Look, people are asking themselves, if you're a next of kin, we don't have enough of the inside information and the other side, obviously, which no one will speak to because it's too deeply a personal and private issue. I understand your frustration. I've got to get to a break, Bev. We've had a good almost 15 minutes here. So, look, it's how you came to be not considered next of kin by the RNC is obviously something a little tanglier that I don't know about. We don't have enough time today, but you're more than welcome to get in a little more of that if you want down the road. It's just a lot of unanswered questions for our listeners. But beyond that, we all feel deeply for you. Nobody should lose a child, and I have to really get going to a break. Okay, so I'll give you 30 seconds to wrap up there, Bev. I'm really sorry.
Well, I would like for anybody that's been in my situation and to know what it's like to be a mom that have lost their baby girl, and the RNC have no consideration whatsoever for me.
Bev, I appreciate the call. I hope you're doing okay, and I welcome your call another time.
Okay, thank you.
Please take care.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Dave, let's take that break. Let's see. Dave is there, too, with a response to the ambulances. I'm looking forward to that. And as I said earlier, Gary talking a bit of World Baseball. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the show. Let's go right to line number 1 real quick. Dave, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you?
Brian, a few weeks ago, Brian, I had a fall in my house because I got mobility problems.
Oh.
And
how are you now?
Me and my sister. I'm all right now, but it was only me and my sister here, and she couldn't do nothing. So we phoned an ambulance, and altogether, I finally crawled over and I got up to the steps, and I put my bum on one step at a time and got up high enough that I could stand up. Hey,
right.
But it was 45 minutes or more, and the ambulance. I live 5 minutes from the hospital. Okay.
Okay.
So 45 minutes, the ambulance never showed up, so we phoned and canceled it. I found out after the ambulance was coming up from Lewisport. We used to have 3 ambulances up here in our hospital all the time. Now they're moved into the Queensway.
Are you in Lewisport, Dave?
No, I'm in Grand Falls, Windsor.
Okay, just had to ask. Yep. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so anyway, they did all this stuff, and they said that the ambulance now is some kind of, they got this system set up where you phone this number and then they send the ambulance. Well, they should know that if someone's in Grand Falls, Windsor, if there's an ambulance in Grand Falls, Windsor, why send it up from Lewisport?
Well, that's a good question. Did you get an answer yourself?
No, well, I phoned NAPE about it, and I phoned the health minister about it. None of them phoned me back, okay?
Right.
That's not bad for people, but, you know, and they get on, they talk about we're trying to do everything with the health care. The biggest problem with the health care, I know we're lacking a lot of doctors, I know that. But the people that are running it, they're lacking the biggest knowledge of all. That's called common sense. Because some of the moves they make, an idiot wouldn't make, you know? It's ridiculous, Brian, and it's getting worse. It's not getting any better. And I saw it there last night on the news about some community where they haven't even got an ambulance, you know?
Yeah, I think the health minister, Lil Evans, was talking about Labrador and issues up there, obviously, which, you know.
But this one here was on the island here somewhere, right around St. John somewhere, I think.
Yep. Look,
and now we got another problem here. Like Dr. Michael Cohn, he's a GP. He retired, I think, March 27th. And he got about 2,000 patients. So he looked around, and he finally got a doctor that would come and take over his clinic. It was a female. And the government don't want her to come here to work. They want her to go to work in the hospital. So that's 2,000 patients that end up got to go to emergency to see a doctor.
Due to the
they're
loss.
They're there for hours and hours and hours.
Due to the loss of one doctor.
Yeah. So where's your common sense? What do you use? And I've always said about politicians, the only time they got any testicles is when they're in the opposition. About politicians, right?
And there's the old adage, common sense ain't all that common.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, and Chris Tibbs hadn't opened his mouth about this, and he should be saying something. He's a minister. I mean, here's a chance to get a doctor to keep 2,000 people. At least I have a medical doctor anyway, right?
Right.
And there's nothing happening. I'll tell you right now, I wish I never had the medical problems that I got, because I would organize some rally. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yeah.
And it's only common sense. I mean, and I listened to Tony Wake from Tottenham when he was in the opposition about the health care and all that, and here to turn around and doing the reverse opposite of what they're saying,
Yeah, and
it's ridiculous.
And I heard, I'll tell you, Dave, I heard the health minister yesterday, Leila Evans, and boy, does she ever have a workload on her. But, she did a very good job of explaining all the problems. But I never heard any solutions. I never heard a plan. She reiterated all the problems we know we have, whether it's the stretchers and the gurneys in Emerge, whether it's the lack of beds in Western Memorial, people waiting out in hallways, all the issues that we know exist. I did hear her explain all that. But nowhere in there was, here's what we're going to do to solve it. And maybe that's the budget. I'll give it a pass on that. And again, it was, it wasn't, I didn't hear everything that happened yesterday in the House of Assembly. But I did see that question and answer with the minister. And as I said, kudos. She knows the issues because she's fought against them in the opposition for the past few years anyway, through a couple of different parties even, with the Tory and the NDP. But the question at this point is, that's great. We don't need to, have them, I suppose, reiterated by people like yourself to know what's going on. But she stated eloquently, accurately, all the problems we're having. But I didn't hear any solutions yet.
And I know, and I heard that last night too. But I'm going to tell you right now, the biggest problem is you're not going to solve anything by hiring former politicians to try to fix something for you. Because when they were there, they couldn't fix nothing. And this political patronage got to go, as far as I'm concerned. That's ruining everything. There's people coming into the university with degrees that could probably do a better job if they're given the opportunity to do something, but they're not. There's all this political patronage, regardless of who you get in there, PCs or the Liberals. If they had to get something done, they're going back to a former member to do the job for them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but Brian, like I said, people got to get together on this. And I don't understand the people here in Grand Falls, Windsor, not saying nothing. Well, that's typical of people here. They don't say nothing. Because you can do anything to our health care here. There's only a few people who will complain, right? And I never heard no word from council about losing where the MHA is not saying a word about the doctor not coming here. And saying, why take this doctor away from us? We need him, right?
You're right. And the partisan politics, I'm with you 100%, Dave. It just gets in the way of the important issues that we're trying to deal with. And like you said, if that doctor if there's 2,000 patients affected by that doctor's departure, that means there's another 1,999 patients out there that I want to hear from.
Because I'll tell you, I lost my doctor retired last March. I'm still waiting for a doctor, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell
you now, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get one. And I'm lucky this is Dr. Sammy in Buckens. I phoned his office. At least I can get my prescriptions and get a few things done anyway, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, though, I don't know what they got done with the health care. I don't know what they're trying to do. But listen to the people. That's all you got to do, and use common sense. And get rid of this political patronage crap, I
hear you 100%, Dave. We're right at the news. So, look, I appreciate the call. Keep them coming. And as I said, anyone else who's in this same boat, and I know, and you know, and we all know that there are many, many, many others, we need to hear it if it's out there because it's important. We'll hear it, and the government will hear it. So there it is.
Well, I'll tell you now, but the people in here are not going to say nothing, see? That's the biggest problem. Well,
there's lots of reasons that are there for that, and legitimate ones. But Dave, listen, thanks for the call. I hope you're okay, and you don't have to be, sitting your backside up the steps to get up too often. And hope you're able to overcome that experience. Thanks again for the call. Don't be a stranger.
Okay.
Okay, take care. All right, bye. All right, Dave, off to the news. Again, we're going to get to Gary in that baseball. It's almost like I'm saving the best. But and Clarence is there. Wants to talk a little about Alexander Graham Bell right after the break.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And welcome back to the final hour for the show for today. Gotten a couple. Listen, I'm going to throw out a few cancellations and closures there, Dave, that I'm getting in here just because they came right in directly to the open line one. So let's see. Killick Health locations in Grand Falls, Windsor on Union Street and Lincoln Road remaining closed for the day. Let's see. Scotiabank Cornerbrook Plaza will reopen at 12 p.m. at lunchtime in just about an hour. So there's that one. Let's see. Keyan Central closed for the remainder of the day due to weather. Classes will continue online, however. Thanks, Joey, for that one. And let's see, is there one more I thought I had somebody who was trying to draw my attention to? Un momento, por favor. Provincial government offices in Grand Falls, Windsor. I don't know if we had this one yet. They are going to remain closed for the remainder of the day due to adverse weather. And let's see, one more. Provincial and Supreme Courts in Grand Falls, Windsor closed for the remainder of the day. All matters scheduled for provincial court today will be called at the same time tomorrow. And that should provide for a busy day on the docket, to say the least, as they try to work their way through those matters. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. And Gary, you're on the air.
Hi, Brian. This is Gary here. Listen, I was listening to the show this morning, and I want to let you know, right, I'm going to warm your heart up a little bit for you on this cold day. Is that you've got a wonderful radio voice, and I want you to know that, because I understand what you're saying all the time, and Linda Swain as well. Between you two, you're both very clear in how you speak on the radio, so you both must have had some good training to use that microphone really good. Decades of it,
Gary. Decades of training.
Yeah, so I want to let you know that I want to warm your heart up. You said you were saving the best for the World Baseball Classic. Oh, my. So we get to play the United States tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, 9:30 Newfoundland time. I mean, look, Canada has never advanced past the pool play. So, and, we got a lot of great players. You got the Larry Walkers of the world, and you could go on and on,
I know. So to me, this is so exciting. I thought, man, like some of the players on the now, players I never heard of before. And I thought, well, some of them, James Paxton, wow, the old man Powers.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. They had him. So Canada's up 7-2. He's trying to put away the final batter of the game, and it's a full count, and he's fouled off a few pitches. And what does Ernie Whitt, the great Jays legend, do? He comes out and pulls him because they want to rest him. Because he looked great, and they want to rest him for the USA game, right? So that was where, one more strike.
That's a smart move.
Yeah, well, one more strike might have gotten him out of the game, but he just didn't want to take that chance, because if he sticks in for another batter, then his arm could be shot. And, these aren't, we're not stacked, say, like the U.S.
I know.
Or
and James Paxton, he came out of retirement, like he's retired. He's not even playing but he might get some phone calls now, because you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, Max Scherzer, he's senior too, so maybe the Blue Jays should get him on board too.
Yeah, be careful of putting anyone in the same category as Mad Max, but I hear your point. I mean, these are one-offs, like these games now, they aren't like Major League Baseball where there's a best of 4 or 7. Right now, it's you're one and done. One and done, yeah. But look, it'd be great, Gary.
That's it. So I'll be, I'll be watching tomorrow morning.
Or tomorrow night, you mean?
Also you said 9:30 in the morning.
No, this is in the United States, so we're back in our own, neck of the woods ballparks. No pun intended.
Oh, okay. Well,
80s.
We're talking that so tomorrow night then.
Yeah, so the Koreans are taking on the Dominican, who a lot of people see as the favorite at this point, believe it or not, despite Otani and the Japanese. Korea and Dominican in one semi, and that's at 8 p.m. Newfoundland time, and then it's U.S.-Canada at 9:30 Newfoundland time tomorrow night. I don't know, did you see the end last night, Gary, when the players came over and they saluted like a couple of hundred Canadian fans that were in the stands?
I was so happy. I thought, look at all the red there and the red hats and the flag, and I was so happy because I always cheer for Canada, no matter what the sport is. When they're on the world stage, I cheer for Canada, because I love sports that way, like the Olympics, like when Brad Jacobs won the gold for Canada. I was so happy. Oh man, they could hear me. I'm in a seniors home. They must have heard me at the seniors home. I was yahooing.
Yeah, in many ways, Gary, this kind of like the Olympics and everything that else, and the hockey, of course, competition there. Say what you want about it, the women and the men. It's just been a little bit of a great distraction during whatever else has been going on. The Olympics were.
Yeah, there's too much going on. Like you had a caller this morning, using inappropriate, what I call inappropriate online language, and to me, the people like that, they need to slow down before they even phone and try to understand it. You're talking. I don't like that kind of language at all. We hear it all the time. Sometimes you go out into the public, you hear it, and it's still it makes me sick to the stomach. People using language that they shouldn't be using.
Yeah, and I'm not pure as the driven coal snow. I drop the bomb when I'm upset. But look, it's sometimes it's par for the course, Gary. This show, if you choose to call open line, you've got something pretty serious or pretty important, or at least to you, or something significant that you want to talk about. And some issues are more significant and personal and deep to some than others. And so, people might get worked up a bit, but, and it can happen. It can happen accidentally, a slip, and there was only one.
It happened in the House of Commons. There's so many members of Parliament in the House of Commons use that word right in the House of Commons.
Yeah, they just say fuddle-duddle, though. They don't actually say
No, they use that word.
I'm referring to the famous Trudeau, Pierre Trudeau line.
Yeah. Well, he came one time because I was born in Alberta. I was born in Calgary, and he came out one time and he didn't use fuddle-duddle up there.
Yeah, that's what we think he said anyway. That's what he says he said.
But anyhow, one more thing for you to warm me up today. My mom used to have a saying. Do you know what's good about this day of winter?
No, give it to me.
It's one day closer to spring.
I love your positivity. I love that, Gary. Keep that up.
So you keep that one. You could use that once in a while. It's one day closer to spring.
You got it.
My mom used to say, how we get through this day of winter is one day closer to spring.
I know. It's hard to believe it with what we got out there today, but I'll take it, and I believe it.
Oh yeah. So I can't wait because you said you're going to talk to Clarence. I'm going to listen to Clarence, so I better let you go so you could talk to him because he's going to talk about Alexander Graham Bell, right?
Yeah, that's the topic. I'm curious to see where it's going to, but Gary, listen, always.
What we're using the telephone, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it was the I think what day was it? Tuesday? I think was the anniversary was the first phone call ever made. So I thought
I got that on one of my calendars. It tells me on one of my calendars, but I can't wait to hear what he has to say because I thought, well, what an invention! Wow, the world changed.
Yeah, and we thought AI and now AI. So, but we
I don't have that because I got a landline. I don't know how to use AI or whatever that's too far to answer my simple mind.
No, I don't know about that, but I will say that we owe Alexander Graham Bell a debt of gratitude here at Open Line because without him, we probably don't have Open Line. Gary, thanks.
Yeah, we don't have Open Line. The phone is used for so many things. It's actually a lifesaver too. It's used for a lot of things. Emergencies and everything.
No argument there.
Yes. Anyhow, you have a wonderful day, and like I said, you've got a wonderful radio voice, so don't lose it. Don't get laryngitis, okay?
Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate it.
Have a good day. Bye now.
All right. You too, man. Take care. All right. Quick break, Dave, and back with that Clarence on Alexander Graham Bell and Jamie Baker with the FFAW on the good old Capeland feed coming up after the break. Welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number 3. And Clarence, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Brian. Yeah, a couple of days ago, I think you said I was headed into St. John's, and I heard you saying about Alexander Graham Bell. I think it was 150 years
yep.
of the anniversary
of the first telephone call. Yeah.
I just
how far we've come, hey, bye.
Yes, I've had to spend a lot of time on the telephone since in my time, you know. But anyway, no, I just I am from Portugal Cove South, but Alexander Graham Bell was shipwrecked here in Portugal Cove South.
You're from the area. Oh, that's fantastic. Great. Oh, well, then your call is apropos.
I live here, yeah. All my life, my father lives here, my grandfather on both my mother and my great-grandfather was born here in 1840.
That's right.
And he was one of the ones, the Tom Malloy, he was born here in 1840. This was 1885, she was shipwrecked.
Yeah. That lady, yeah.
And it was in September the 2nd, you know, there was, I guess, I don't know what, I know there was foggy at the time. They said they had left Halifax on around noon the 31st of August. And they were in the fog all the way, but there was... they had no problem, but if you're familiar with this area, the see Cape Mutton.
Well, you got the mistaken point down your way too, right?
That's right. Mistaken Point is towards Cape Race from here, but and when you stay in Mistaken Point, for some reason the skipper thought it was Cape Ballard, right, or Ballard off before you get to Renews. That way, you know, he was around Cape Race, but there was fishermen, you know, at the time, and there were boys, like I guess for the fishing gear, and he didn't take the warning. Like it was even a fisherman that were yelling out to him, you know, that's what it said in the article that I read, you know, and his Captain Thompson, or whatever his name is, he was. He ignored him, right? Thompson was his last name, and because he was so sure that he was on course, you know.
Yeah, was it? I remember Frank Galgay now, the former St. John's councillor. I think he had a book on this, on shipwrecks in general, but he gets into it. I think it was
Eamon McCarthy, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
McCarthy,
the SS
Frank Galgay, yeah.
Hanoverian, I think. Is that close to what it was?
Yeah. And there was 280 passengers plus the crew, you know.
Yeah.
There was a big, but you know that even though the fishermen tried to warn them, they kept on course till they said there was when the fog lifted, they heard to see a white house, and they tried to put in reverse, but it was too late. You know? But
yeah, reverse in that kind of situation, you know, and especially back in the late 1800s, that wasn't going to work out very well.
No.
Something else yeah, go ahead.
They praised they landed all. Well, they said in this article now by Frank Galgay that there was Malloy, I guess fishermen or Malloy boat. Anyway, they said that landed a load, but the rest of them were all landed by the lifeboats. And there was a bunch of Navy men honor that kind of took in charge. But they were saying about it, you know, there was the telegraph officer in Trapassi that reported to St. John's at the time for grounding, and there was no loss of life. But then they couldn't get a hold of the telegraph officer after to try to find out more information, or even the next day. And apparently he said he was drunk.
Nothing to laugh at, but under the circumstances.
No, I know, but they didn't mention in the article what his name was, you know. But anyway, I just thought it was but they did praise the people of Portugal Cove South for their help, and there was none of them, you know, there was no trying to do any damage or try to take anything from the ship, you know.
Right.
And they sent, they said, they sent a naval boat from St. John's that was in the harbour at the time. Sir Amber Shea, he was the guy who was looking after the Allen Line or steamship at the time in St. John's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he sent this naval boat to Portugal Cove South, and and she took like 200 passengers the next day to St. John's, and the other 80, I think, went on another one later. But they salvaged most of the stuff, and it was all took by schooner to St. John's, you know, a load of with grain and different kinds of pork, and you know.
Yeah, and a fine vessel named after Ambroche after that. I always remember the MV Ambroche, which serviced Port of Bass, North Sydney run for years, and Argentia, North Sydney, the crossings in the Gulf from, I don't know, late 60s to almost to the 90s, I think. It was like almost 20, 25 years she ran that run, the old Ambroche.
Yeah, and there's a bed and breakfast here now in Portugal Coast, and actually that's what they call it, after this Hanoverian or whatever the ship, you know, that on the shore there. But we had a lot of shipwrecks in our area, you know, anyway, like Cape Race and we had a beer wreck that went ashore here one time, a full load of Black Horse beer. That was pretty popular back in 1943.
Yeah, or unpopular.
And we had the Christianifer went ashore between here and Cape Race in Bristol Cove, and she had, I think she had 1,100 passengers aboard that time.
Yeah, it's par for the course, that whole coast around the south. I mean, we all know the fog is something else. Right, all along that coast, it can be splitting the rocks here in St. John's, but you can't see a finger in front of you down that way. No question.
Yeah, well, it's not that important, but I just wanted to kind of mention that as Portugal Cove, you know, that we have a lot of history in our area, you know, with Cape Race and Mistaken Point and all the you know.
Let's just off the top of your head, and only because Mistaken Point, I'm fascinated by that. I went down as a journalist once, and until you get there and you look at the fossils, and then you think about the millions of years and all that sort of thing, but also the shipwrecks and all the other incidents around there. What's the status of Mistaken Point? Wasn't there, and I'm just shooting off the top of my head there now, I thought there was another move afoot to get, I know it's got UNESCO designation, does it not?
That's right, Chet, we do, yeah.
But I thought there was some concerns about it recently, or that it was, I'm just trying to remember now, there's so much news goes through my head in the run of a day. People have to realize sometimes that, you know, it is a fire hose these days. It's just no question about it, the amount of news. But trying to pull up that kind of stuff out of the blue. I mean, I was there. I know the significance of it. But I thought there was, it is still a heritage. I mean, that wasn't taken away. But, yeah, no, I'm going to dig in a bit of that.
It's a big draw here for tourism, right? We have... like we look after here in Portugal South, they have a visitor centre here, and the provincial government have guided tours to Mistaken Point in the summer, you know, from probably May to October.
It's not that long a trek either. It's like 50, I don't know.
No, it's 45 minutes to walk down, you know, and you know,
couple of brooks,
probably a little shorter if you walk, but you walk down. It was an old road. You just to go to water and go. People fit Long Beach fish there, right?
Yep.
And
got to dress for it. Got to dress for it. There's a few little rivers and stuff that you got to traverse to get there.
But they have boardwalks now in some of the places that were more difficult. I think I haven't been there for 2 or 3 years anyway since I walked down there with the. But you can't go down there on your own, you know.
No, you need a guide or someone. And
you know, people do still. People do still hunt there in the winter time and different things. You know, you're allowed. You're not barred off that way, but locals. But I mean, to go to Mistaken Point now, you can't go. Like you just can't drive out and go right. And they have they have a little place there where you walk down from, and there's fellas that are hired, like to go back and forth and talk to people.
Yeah, like Sherpas.
Unusual, you know.
Kind of like Sherpas in Nepal.
They're security or whatever, you know. But there's a great draw for the whole area, like Trapassi, the whole southern shore. There's one of you know, Ferryland, all the places on the shore are really you don't realize it when you live here, you know. They kind of you know, but when you there's a lot on the whole shore, you know, and St. Mary's Bay. There's a lot of and you know, Cape St. Mary's, all them places. They're all big draws for tourism, and we see an awful lot of people last year, especially from Quebec and places that probably normally went to the States and different things, you know. And you know, I speak to them. I've seen they're down at the Cape Lanarone, and you know, there are people down, and they're all seeming to be surprised and how untouched areas type thing,
Well, Clarence, it's funny. What a great segue. You mentioned the Capelin. I've got Jamie Baker with the FFAW on talking about Capelin now after this call. And I'm past the break a bit. So thanks.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with it. Thanks very much for taking my call.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Listen, this tourism commercial brought to you by Clarence Malloy. That's great, man. It's a free ad.
Right on. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, take care. All right, drop that one out. And yeah, coming back with Jamie Baker at the FFAW right after the break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
And welcome back to the show. I know there's some weather in Central. I just want to get to a couple other quick announcements. Let's see. The Harmsworth Public Library in Grand Falls, Windsor, going to remain closed for the day. And let's see, what was the other one I had here, Dave, just then? Oh, yes, the Provincial Court in Stephenville. That's also remaining closed for the day today. And again, as with the other courts, as what usually will happen, anything that was scheduled for today will be called at the exact same time tomorrow. So if you are supposed to be there, whether you're a council or a party to a matter, that's the update for you around Stephenville parts. Let's go right to line number 4. And Jamie Baker, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
Fine. How is the Secretary-Treasurer of the FFAW Unifor? Probably a little bit buoyed, no pun intended, by the news yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really great news, this new assessment coming out on Capelin. In the assessment, they talked about we're seeing more favorable environmental conditions and Capelin showing up in predators, earlier spawning timing, and this increasing number of age 3 fish, which they say they haven't been seeing in a while. And while that's all good news, Brian, that just really lines up with what harvesters have been seeing on the water for the last few years, right? I think if you look at the way that they do the science around Capelin, it's a little bit misaligned, and that's the only concern we really have with this, because what happens is every year they do like a kind of projected Capelin biomass, and then the acoustic survey from the year previous comes in.
Yeah.
The problem
it's
we
the
have
lag
is the last
time,
few
right?
years, man.
Yeah.
But the last few years, the gap has been huge. Last year, they underestimated it at 50%. Like, they estimated a certain amount at 330,000 tons, and the survey came back at 647. And 2025, they thought it would go down to 214,000 tons, and the survey said it was actually up to 766,000, which is a 70% miss. So for us, we understand that science is complicated, particularly when it comes to pelagic species, but harvesters are just hoping that, they start to pay attention to what they're seeing in the acoustic surveys and what folks are seeing on the water as a way to manage that resource, as opposed to the guesswork that's done the year in advance, because, the evidence proves it just has not panned out the way they'd hoped, right?
I heard our friend Conway Keynes on another network the other day, and I used to have great chats with Conway back in the day at the other network on the broadcast, as you may know. And, he was talking about this very thing and saying, the cod, and, not just the 3PS goal zone, but, in other areas of the province. And as you said, they've been saying it. Is there a sweet spot between what's anecdotally said and the biomass and the science?
Well, I think it's just about considering the information you have and going with what you know to be true as opposed to what you think might be true. Because sometimes projections don't really play out the way they're supposed to. So, if you've got a survey that says you've got 766,000 tons of biomass out there, but you're thinking that you would only have had 214, that tells you there's a significant gap in the projection model. So all we're really looking for is to be able to manage that resource sustainably and sensibly, and to try and find a way to strike the balance that makes sense. And, we've got issues in other species, too, that revolve around some of this stuff. All you got to do is look at mackerel, for example. Goodness gracious, we can't fish mackerel, and meanwhile, the entire coast of Newfoundland was absolutely infested with it last year. So I think the projection models are
infested
not really
in a good way.
The answer here, right? Yeah, no, it's a good thing. Yeah. But it's a bad thing when you've got a species there that science tells you don't have, and you can't touch it because of that. And meanwhile, it's just there in such rabid abundance that it would blow your mind. We
know that there were a lot of interruptions in the science, Jamie, in the last few years, whether it was COVID and other issues with vessels, right? Remember that, the availability?
Oh, yeah.
All of those issues come up and contribute to whether or not they're as accurate as we would want them to be. But some of these estimates or just way off. And but we get past all that. For the person who doesn't follow words like biomass and the scientific jargon that we get on with sometimes, and the implications of all this, just put it in plain language for people, Jamie, who don't always follow the fishery. And I hate talking at a high level here because it feels like we're talking down to some people. But what are the implications for the news yesterday about the abundance of capelin?
Well, what the implications are is that we are hoping to see some increases in quota around our coast this year so that people can fish it a bit more actively. There is lots of it. I won't use the word biomass, but based on 76,000 tons of it, there's lots of it. So, there's no harm in going out and bumping up some of those quotas a bit and just kind of trying to respect what the survey, the actual physical work tells you is there, and it matches up right on the money with what harvesters are seeing. So I don't see any reason for us to be governing that fishery based on projections that have missed. Let's go with what we know to be true. Pretty simple.
Yeah, and from here on in, I don't know, it's just, I've covered these things, and I saw this come out yesterday morning, and doing this show, I had planned to go right through it yesterday, and I could only give it a tertiary look. But just, I'll give you another minute there before we get to a break, just to wrap it up, from the FFAW's point of view, what do we need? What's the tweak that we need? I'll call it a tweak, it's probably bigger than that, to be able to get to a point where we can have these, and if there is a lag time, like a couple of years ago, because these numbers aren't what they are today. If you look at trends, we can predict where it's going, right? For all the reasons that we've heard. And again, I wish I'd dug into the report better. But just tell people, what needs to be done. What was the problem here, and how do we correct it?
Well, you actually just stated the problem, sir. It's the prediction part, right?
Right.
Like, you can't predict what an ecosystem is going to do, but what we've seen in the last number of years is a year-over-year increase in that biomass because all the conditions are starting to line up for that to happen. So, why don't we just look at using that particular marker instead of what you think? Because if what you think isn't factual or isn't correct and isn't consistently lining up, and it hasn't been, then you need to use other indices. And I'm just a big fan of going with what you know to be true, as I said. And I think we can strike a really healthy balance that will have a really good, valuable fishery for folks that are into that, and the ecosystem piece will be managed quite effectively that way. I've said it a million times, Brian. Our harvesters are the biggest conservationists we have around our coasts. They know what they can take and what they can't take, and the science this time, particularly the acoustic survey piece, spells it out plain as day. So I don't think there's any real need to be looking any further into it than that in terms of trying to find rationale. I think it's right in front of our face, and I'm hoping this year that we get some good news on the catch and the allowable catch, and then guys can have a fairly successful season at capelin, and we see that industry start to grow year over year as we have in the last few, for sure.
Yeah, Jamie, last thing real quick. I had Steve Watson on the other day talking about going to the Boston Seafood Show to fire up some scallops and some mussels and that sort of thing. Do we have any reps going down?
Yeah, several. We got our president is going to be down there along with a few of our using that particular instead of what you think. Because if what you think isn't factual or isn't correct and isn't consistently lining up, and it hasn't been, then you need to use other indices. And I'm just a fan of going to be true, as I said. And I think we can strike a really healthy balance that will have a really good, valuable fishery for folks that are into that, and the ecosystem piece.
Maybe. Nutrition got your lights before?
I know.
License for?
You have to be a part of it. It's
no.
You're not going to the White House. No. You're going to the Boston Seafood Show.
Yeah, and you're going and you're getting a direct line on customers that are buying our products, and it really gives you a sense of what the demand is going to be, where prices are going to be, and then when you go to negotiations, you're always in better condition when you do that.
Yeah, and what they are going through. Look, hey, they're on our side.
Well, and I guess no matter what you do in Boston, there's no accounting for the big orange gorilla there in the White House, so I don't know exactly what he's going to do. But we know what the market is looking like, and at least that gives us a head start that way.
You got it, Jamie Baker. Loved having a chat, buddy. Good to have you on. Thanks so much for the info, and good eating.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks very much, Brian.
Okay,
always.
Take care.
Here.
All right, Jamie Baker with the Secretary-Treasurer, of course, FFAW Unifor. Off to a break and back with a couple of callers to end the day. And welcome back to the program, into the absolute home stretch for today. Let's go right to line number 2. And Maria, you're on the air.
Oh, hi there. This is Maria Gentle. I'm the Executive Director at the YWCA St. John's.
Hello.
I'm calling in about childcare.
Awesome. Maria, thanks for making time for the program. Boy, all I can say, the ECEs, Early Childhood Educators, I will say one thing real quick before you get going. Like many sectors, if we don't pay people, the wages that will keep them here, they won't stay here. That's all I'm going to say. Go for it. The floor is yours.
Well, I think that's an excellent segue. YWCA St. John's has been engaged in a federally funded project titled Childcare at Work, and the project is intended to address the lack of access to equity in the childcare system. And the goal is really increasing the economic security for women and gender diverse people. And so this project involved a province-wide consultation to identify community barriers and community-driven solutions to equitable childcare access. And exciting news is that we are holding a symposium to report on our findings and engage community on March 26th from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Amira Innovation Exchange, Signal Hill campus. It's free of charge, open to the public for parents, caregivers, ECEs, administrators, policymakers to join in the conversation. It's free. It includes childminding, lunch. There's going to be panels and keynotes. I'll tell you more as our conversation goes on here.
Yeah, no, that's 2 weeks from today, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's 2 weeks out. First and foremost, I'm hoping you'll call back, like, say, 2 weeks less a day from now.
Will do.
Or even on the day of, or even right to the day of. But look, the symposium. This sounds like must see or must attend TV, or just must attend in person. With all, it seems to do what these symposiums are supposed to do, and that's bring everybody together, put all the minds in the room, and make sure we cover off all the needs. Is that basically the thinking here?
That's the thinking. So throughout the consultation across regions in the province, there were three primary themes that arose. No surprise here, lack of spaces, which create extensive wait lists. The costs of accessing early learning services, and that's, of course, due to the lack of $10 a day spaces and what that means for families and caregivers. And as well as you mentioned, the staffing and workforce challenges. It didn't take much, and it doesn't take much for working families to recognize that the issue of the ECE workforce is paramount. And it doesn't take much, of course, to draw the lines. When this is a gender care issue, you've got women and gender diverse people primarily responsible for the care of young people. They know the inherent value, skill, expertise that it takes to spend 8 hours a day with children, to educate them, right? The lack of support for the ECE sector is one that came loud and clear in our report. We'll talk more about, and we're in full support of the ECE workforce and building up that sector. Oh
my God, there aren't many more important tasks that we should be looking at. Other than when it comes to the early childhood. Look, we know you got to get them early and set them on the right course and set them with the right people who know how to, just shepherd the kids at that age through the education cycle, like learning how to learn, if you will.
Exactly. So, again, the recognition of the ECE workforce, the specialization, the skill, the training that's needed, folks know that there's not enough respect, and that comes through loud and clear in terms of compensation from benefits, sick days, the wage grid. There's a movement that's been made through the $10 a day system, and there still needs to be more that is done. And this is because not only of the workforce issue, but it works directly in terms of the quality of care, right? And that's about those benefits. If you have rooms, we've heard report, from folks that rooms of childcare can be closed down because of the workforce, ECE workforce. If ECEs don't have access to sick leave, to other benefits, the other element is that they're not well, but they can't stay in the field. And we need a strong field because we know that an investment in childcare has, triple the returns, not only economically, but, for the young people, women, and gender diverse families that childcare upholds.
Yeah, and I know that the Childcare Now, NL, they know. There is an operating grant program that's been circulated, but they have concerns with that because there's no mention of wage increases in it. There are, as you just alluded to, some mandatory paid sick days. I think there's 10 that come through this operating grant program. But again, I'm sorry to be so repetitive on this, but the answer to all our questions is money, unfortunately. I mean, obviously the education is the important, but you can't get there unless you fund it.
Exactly. So we know that the Department of Education is reporting on consultations, and that VOCM, reported on this yesterday. YWCA St. John's is part of the Childcare Now Steering Committee, and so we're eager to be a part of promoting the sector, and hope that there's more to come in terms of official word from the government on what the operating grant program is going to look like. So we're eager to be a part of the conversation and be part of the solution. So that is certainly part of the consultation process. Not only is there a cost to families, there's a cost in terms of the ECE workforce, but there's also a cost in terms of ensuring that expansion happens within a nonprofit system. And so we're also, reviewed the sort of state of the sector, and we'll be reporting on what is happening nationally. And so at our symposium on March 26th, we will also be hosting Amanda Arella, who will be joining us from YWCA Canada. Amanda will be reporting on the state of childcare nationally, so that will be an exciting conversation to hear, as well as building out advocacy skills for participants so that we can continue to work together towards making change collectively. We'll also be having panels, a panel conversation. This project included a participant advisory group, and folks will be sharing their experiences with the consultations, with their experiences with childcare. Again, there's so many opportunities for folks to be involved. We know that $10 a day childcare makes a difference. We know that families can't go back to paying the equivalent of an extra mortgage payment a month for childcare. And this has, real impacts on the system. So, of course, we're here for families, for ECEs, promoting equitable access to childcare, and all of that can be accessed at our symposium on March 26th. From 9 a.m., and folks can go to our website, www.ywca.st.john's,
Maria,
and link to childcare.
I really appreciate it. So I got 3 minutes left, and one more quick call to squeeze in. I didn't mean to give you a short shift, but I think we got it out there. 2 weeks from today, and again, reminder, give me that little reminder phone call, and it'll be fresh in people's minds.
Perfect. Thanks for the time, and I look forward to seeing folks at the symposium.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, and really quickly before we go, I'm sorry, Mike Tiller, Deputy Fire Chief, New West Valley. Sorry about the short time. I got a minute there, but we'll have you back tomorrow, but go for it.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to comment on the bus driver that was on earlier this morning talking about right away for emergency vehicles when it comes to buses. Basically, emergency vehicles do not have the right of way if a bus is stopped and has the arms out with the lights flashing. From what we were always told, if we come across that situation, whether we're coming towards it or coming up from behind, those lights are out because more than likely there's kids going to be crossing the road. So the bus driver's responsibility is to make sure that the kids that are going across the road make it across, stop any more kids from getting off the bus. Then they put in their arm, they pull over and allow us to either go past them from the front or coming up from behind.
Right on. So it is a process.
Oh, there is a process. Yeah, we can't fly by any buses with the arms out because because you got somebody sick on or you're going to a fire, you can't risk running somebody else over.
No, it makes perfect sense, and we had that chat earlier, and we kind of got lost in the actual nuances of it. But absolutely, it only makes sense because you're the ones. Yeah, for all the reasons you just said, Mike, you nailed it. I really appreciate that. And if you want to expand a little more on any of your situations or firsthand, we're here tomorrow.
All right, thank you, sir.
Got it. Thanks very much. All right, thanks to Mike Tiller there, the Deputy Fire Chief of New West Valley. That does it for today, folks. Never got a chance to even get into any of the great sports stuff that's going on. I know the Canadian curlers are back on it this afternoon. 2 games today and then the U.S. tonight. And Newhook had a great goal and a great assist yesterday on the winner for the Habs. I promised a friend of mine I'd mention that. Other than that, Elam Pentecostal Tabernacle, 7 p.m. tonight for the Cougar Memorial Service. Hope to see you there. Take care, everyone. Drive safely. Arrive alive. VOCM cares.